My guest this evening has been performing music for many years. As a musical springboard for the band Bleachbear, she, along with her sister and cousin, crafted many fine dream pop tunes. She's getting ready to release her new solo work under her namesake in July. Please welcome to the Eclectic Arts virtual studio, Tigerlily.
Hello.
Hey.
Out of nowhere. Glad to be here.
How are you doing down there in Oregon?
Doing well. I haven't actually gone outside. I was like, I got to get here for the interview. So we were rushing down the highway, but it looks really pretty where we are. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. That's like we were talking pre-show. It's nice to get a chance to get away and relax and just kind of decompress from all the stuff that's going on out there. Kind of actually jealous right now that you're doing that. But yeah, thank you so much for taking the time. And so we kind of go back. I had to think about this today when I was doing my notes that it was 2015 when I first discovered Bleachbear. I saw you through the Sound Off contest, and I saw you at the Fun House. And that's when we first did an interview. So it was just kind of strange for me to think, gosh, has it been 5 years? And it has. Yeah, I know. It's been a really long time. And so I know that you just mentioned to me that you graduated from college in May last month. And so what were things like when the pandemic hit where you were, and what happened? What was that timeline like for you?
Yeah, it was kind of weird. So I was in New York City, which of course got hit really hard. But when it hit, it was spring break for us students. So I had planned to go to Mexico. So I actually went down, and when spring break hit, people were like, it hadn't hit New York yet. There was like 1 or 2 cases, and we weren't really sure what was going to happen. Didn't seem that it wasn't that bad yet. And so I was like, I'll go to Mexico. So I went down to Mexico, and then everything just broke loose, and I was getting all these messages, and they were like, the border's going to close. Like, you're going to be stuck in Mexico forever. And so, yeah, decided to come back. And I decided, actually, by the time I decided to leave, they were like, you're no longer welcome in New York at your apartment. Like, everything's shutting down. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go home. I'm going to go to Seattle. And yeah, I guess the nice upside about being a student when it hit was that it was like everything for us kind of stayed. We still had our classes. It wasn't like we were going into the office. So there wasn't like a job that like I was doing that was going to lay me off. So I went back for classes, and I actually ended up with a lot of extra free time to think through this music project I was going to do. So for me, it ended up being kind of like an unexpected turn of events that made me realize like I'm going to release this solo project. So yeah.
Okay, well, so there's a bit of a silver lining to it then for you. And even for me, like the fact that I'm here right now, if COVID-19 did not happen, Alice would be on their actual tour playing different cities. And I would be, like I've told other people during these segments, I would be sitting on my couch doing God knows what. So there's definitely been some silver linings that come with, just kind of the strangest times. And so before we get into your music background and everything else that I wanted to share with everybody, since you graduated from college, what did you major in, and what's your plan moving beyond the college world?
Yeah, I majored in business, and my dad convinced me to do my like minor in like computer science stuff, which I always tell Bird and Emiko, for people who don't know, they're my cousin and sister who are in Bleachbear, because we're actually all majoring in the same thing. And my dad is always telling them, do your minor in computer science. And none of us are very like tech focused. We're all more musical and creative. I always tell them they're lucky I did that for all of us, because now I can tell them that was a horrible idea. If your brain doesn't work like that, I can't code a single line. So I like really struggled through college, but I got my degree. It was fine. And I'm going to go back to New York, and I'm going to do hopefully just something like in business while I work on the music stuff. That's my current plan. Yeah.
Okay. So you're definitely going to be a New York-based artist, person, worker, professional, basically. Okay.
I'm thinking yes. I don't think I want to stay in New York forever. And their music scene is very different from Seattle's. I actually prefer Seattle's music scene because it's a lot more tight-knit. But I don't think my time in New York doesn't quite feel done. I feel like I need to do like some more time over there. Yeah.
Okay, that's a good way to put it. That your gut's kind of telling you that your chapter is not done there, so you want to kind of continue it and kind of see what happens. And when it feels right, then you go into the next chapter, wherever that happens to be in the world. So that makes a lot of sense.
I also have to pick up my stuff. When I was in Mexico, they were like, "Okay, everything's gone." So I've been living off of like my suitcase of Mexico clothes here in Seattle. That's why I'm in it right now. I only have my Mexico closet.
That sounds like a song title. I think that could be a song title.
I know my guitars are there. I was like, what am I supposed to do? They just kicked us out, and they were like, call back in like a couple months, and we'll see if you can have your stuff back. So it's like, all right. I got a
wow. Yeah, for that reason at least.
Yeah, for that reason at least, I have all my stuff there. I really just got kicked out.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So let's kind of go back and talk about your music background, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember at some point, and maybe middle school, you got involved with like a program through the Fremont Abbey Arts things that they were doing there. Is that kind of right, or kind of speak to your music background?
Yeah, so it was a music teacher. So we got involved. Our teacher was named Lacey Brown, and Lacey's spectacular. If anyone listening is like looking for a music teacher in Seattle. But Lacey's actually Bird's drum teacher. And then she found out that I was seeing another like guitar teacher, and she's like, "Oh, your sister plays. Why don't you guys like come do like a show?" There's like a show going on in like the university district, and because she knew that I had been like writing songs, and she's like, "Why don't you guys like play together?" And then me and Bird are both at that time, we're both super introverted, and we're like, "Oh, it sounds horrible." So we're like, "Why don't we invite Emiko, because she's the extrovert out of the three of us, and she can kind of be on stage and distract attention away from us." And she didn't play anything, so we were like, I guess she can like clap or do tambourine or something. And then I guess that ended up turning into Bleachbear, because after that show we were like, "Oh, this is cool." We had made t-shirts for the show, so we're like, we already have t-shirts, like we can just continue from there, and everyone kind of learned their instruments. And so yeah, that was kind of the beginning of it.
Wow, that's I don't even know if I knew that Emiko didn't play anything at that initial coming together of Bleachbear. I always thought that she was playing something, and then you and your sister grabbed her because, like you just said, she was the extrovert. But I had no idea that she didn't play anything.
No, she didn't play anything. But then we figured bass would be like simple enough. And yeah, she ended up getting really into it. Yeah, so it worked out.
Yeah, no, it worked out really well. And so when you're starting, and the three of you, and again, as you mentioned, it's yourself and Bird is on drums, who's your sister, and then Emiko, who's your cousin, is on bass. How were you writing those early songs? Was that basically coming from you, and then those two kind of put their input into it, or what did it look like with those early compositions?
Yeah, I think usually I would write out like a song, just like, yeah, on guitar, and then I'd play it for them, and then they would add their parts to it. And then I'd always ask them like, "Oh, do you think we should change the structure? Should we put the bridge here?" And so they'd be involved with like the whole thing too. But usually that's how it was done, because I don't play any drums. I'm a horrible bassist. So we basically left each person to do their part. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that really means that when people listen to your music, they're actually hearing the three of you. It's not like, because some bands you have someone who writes all the material, and they're kind of almost like a dictator. It's like, this is the drum part, here's the bass part, and then, just do what I ask or what's on the demo. And this doesn't sound like that at all. It's more like a collaborative effort then.
Yeah. It was always really collaborative. Yeah.
Okay. And you mentioned that you and Bird were pretty introverted back then. What were those first shows like for you? Were you both really nervous then, playing in front of people, since you're introverted, or how did that kind of work? Because a lot of people have stage fright early on.
I describe it as pure terror. It was terrifying. I remember I used to psych myself out before the shows, because I think the most terrifying show was, what I would do was I would get so nervous before the shows that I would actually I think bring on like ailments, and I would lose my voice or contract laryngitis or whatever it was before the shows. So I remember the biggest show we had, I think this was back in 2015, one of the first shows we did at EMP. It was like a Woman Who Rock concert. And they'd given us a lot of forewarning, which gave me a lot of time to be nervous about it. So then I think it was like 2 days before the show or something, I just completely lost my voice. I had like horrible laryngitis. but I was like, we can't not go. So we went, and I was just like screaming through it, and it just sounded, I had like no voice, but of course the crowd was very supportive. We were like 13, 15 years old. So, but yeah, I would describe it as like pure terror, but that definitely got better as the years went on. Yeah.
Okay, no, that makes sense. I mean, I didn't play in front of the audiences that you've played in front of, but ours were very much a lot smaller. But even for me, having played guitar for, I don't know, at that point, maybe 20 years or something, I would still get butterflies. And it could be people that I knew, and it's just like really comfortable and fun. But I would still get butterflies before you did that first song. Once I got past the first song, then I was fine. But I don't think that ever really necessarily goes away. It just gets smaller.
Yeah. I've actually found that since I started performing without playing guitar, for some reason, to me, it's way less nerve-wracking. I don't know why, but I think it might be something between coordinating, remembering the chords, and remembering how to sing and perform well. It's a lot harder, I think, than just having to sing. If you're just having to sing, I realize that's a whole nother ballpark. Yeah. So I've started doing that with some of the solo shows, just experiment with it, and I found it was totally different experience.
That's interesting because I think some people, and I think even Tosh from Alice talked about that when she started out, she just wanted to play keyboard. She didn't want to get out there and sing without something to play or be behind. And I was kind of the same way because when I started singing and playing guitar, it's like at least I had something to hide, which was my guitar, instead of just being quote unquote naked with just having to sing vocally. So you're the opposite of that. You're finding that it's easier to concentrate on just one thing instead of having to do two.
Yeah. I also found though that I have an opposite problem than I thought I was going to have, because I assumed that because I was always so like introverted on the early Bleachbear concerts, and that I figured that if I was forced to just sing, it would probably be like that. It would just be a lot scarier. And then I found that for some reason, now when I just sing, I overdo it. Like I over dance. I'm on stage, like dancing around. I'll watch like footage of myself and I'll be like, how are you dancing that much? Like you need to tone it down. Like it's the opposite problem. Because before I was always thinking, I need to tone it up. Like, so yeah, pretty funny. Yeah. I don't know. It must have to do something about concentration, like maybe the way your brain works. I think for me, maybe it's hard to focus on doing two things at once or something.
No, it could be. And again, it sounds like it's actually a good problem to have, that if you're doing solo work and you're focusing as a singer, then you get a chance to perform and you're actually embracing it, instead of, again, it could be the other way around where you're like, oh my gosh, I feel so strange without my guitar here. What am I going to do? And start freaking out. You're totally going the other way. So it makes me want to see some of your solo performances then.
I had to hide the really early footage because I was like, this is too much dancing. No one can see these, but yeah.
Start thinking it's a dancing or choreography video instead of a singing video. Wow. Okay. So what are some of your sources of inspiration nowadays for your solo work? Because obviously you've gone through a lot of life changes, going through high school and college, and live different places. What kind of things are inspiring you now for the music that's on your solo release?
Yeah. I would say it's been changing a lot. I think when I first started doing the solo stuff, I had in my mind that I thought it would be cool to kind of embrace the sound that was coming out of actually like Seattle. There's been a lot of like this kind of like R&B inspired kind of like sultry, kind of like pop, kind of like Paris Alexa, like that kind of vibe. And I worked with the same producers that she worked with, and a lot of the people, is that more kind of like R&B inspired stuff. But then as I was going on with it and kind of reflecting back, I'm thinking that I might just want to go for like more of like kind of like just like an indie pop sound. So it's been kind of evolving. I would say I was listening to a lot of like Kalani, Frank Ocean, Daniel Caesar when I was actually writing the songs that are going to come out first. But now it's still evolving, and I just find that so interesting because I feel like at least like in the stuff Bleachbear is doing, I feel like sounds. Even the stuff Bleachbear did, I feel like it kind of it evolved over time. So I find it interesting how different things can get, because I think the stuff I'm going to come out with, I think the stuff I'm coming out with as a solo artist sounds pretty different than the stuff Bleachbear is doing. And I think the stuff I'm going to come out with after this first wave of songs comes out, I think it's probably going to be actually pretty different too than what is about to come out. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and I mean, you put it well, though. I think it does make sense because with the Bleachbear material that I've heard, there's definitely a growth to it and a maturity to it. I didn't get a chance to review the Bleachbear EP until much later than I said I would, but I did listen to it and I did review it. And I just remember thinking, part of it for me is because of just the natural life things you're going through. You're going to be changing, idealistic and maturing and all that kind of, that just happens to everybody, especially from 18 to 25, those years of age. Everyone changes a lot during that period. Doesn't matter if you're in college, working, military, whatever, it just happens. And I think it's going to really directly influence your music. So like what you just said, the batches of songs that you've written right now and recorded will sound pretty different than the ones, you know, maybe a year down the road or whatever, 6 months even down the road. And also probably influenced by, what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. And it just happens, I think, with a lot of artists for sure.
Yeah. And it was also interesting just the way the process is so different as a solo artist when you're like writing these songs and recording them than as a band. So it was really weird because even though I did Bleachbear for like, I don't even remember how many years, but when I started over with this, it felt like I was starting completely from scratch because I was having to learn all these things that I had no idea about, because we'd worked with producers, but it was in a very different way than I did with like the solo project. And they were bringing up these instruments and these sounds that I wasn't even aware of. So it almost felt like as if you were just like becoming a musician from like day one all over again, which was super weird for me to like kind of trying to enter a new genre where I could still take the stuff that I was doing with Bleachbear, but there was also just a ton that I had no idea about. So I had to kind of like relearn like form and composition for that genre.
Okay, that sounds really interesting. I definitely want to get a chance to play your video clip, and then once we do, we're going to come back and talk a little bit more. So if the Alice headquarters could roll the clip from Tigerlily, that would be awesome.
Honestly, don't understand how you can say that you're not
wonderful to hear your voice and again hear that maturity. What can you tell the people out there about that song? What's it called? How long did it take to write? Subject matter?
Yeah. So the song's called Lisbon. So I actually made all the like first couple songs that I'm gonna come out with for my solo project. They're all after cities. So there's Lisbon, New York, London. Because I spent a lot of time, I think it was kind of going on concurrently with Bleachbear, but like living in a bunch of different places. Because I was living in London. I went and lived down in Colombia for a bit, and I moved over to New York. I lived in Barcelona. So there's a lot of cities interspersed the whole time the band was going on. And I found the cities pretty inspiring. There's a lot of like cool stories I had that I wanted to kind of share from those cities. Actually, Lisbon was odd because so I'd written all those songs like New York and all these other ones, and I'd been recording them. And then I took a break to go fly to actually visit a guy who I had met when I was studying in Barcelona years before, back when I was like 16 or whatever, and we met up in Portugal. And it just went horribly. And when I came back I think there was just a lot of communication errors. I think it also could have been the language barrier. I'm not really sure what happened, but it just went horribly. So I came back and I was like, and I wrote that song in one night, and it really didn't change. Like it just came out, and it was just like, that was it. I never edited it. I think because I was already in the studio finishing up the other songs, and I was like, I wrote the song like last night. Why don't we just like record it, just tack it on at the end? And then it ended up being my favorite song. But that song really, I just wrote it. I think it must have taken like an hour or two, and it never changed because after I played it, it's a very simple song, but I really liked it. And I think it might be because that song, that emotionally for me meant a lot. But I've also found kind of like a weird paradox is kind of like the easier I find the songs are for me to write, usually those end up being my favorite songs. The songs, at least for me, that when I have to go back over and over again, oftentimes by the end of it, I don't even like it that much. It's usually the song for me that I can just write on the spot and it's just like in my head and I can just execute it like quickly. Those are the ones where I'm like, that's exactly what I wanted to say. And I'm just not going to touch it. So that song was like that for me.
No, that's good. I think it makes sense because I can think back again that I haven't written a new song in like 5 years or whatever it's been, but the ones that naturally came out of me that I didn't have to spend too much time on, I still like to this day. And then the ones I had to labor over, there's always something when I listen to it now, it's like I still don't like some part of it or it doesn't connect with me. And it's almost like I spent too much time on it. It wasn't natural or organic enough. And I probably should have just learned my lesson and left it alone and just, kept working on something else. So that makes perfect sense to me that when something you have your guitar or what have you, and it just kind of just comes out of you. And then like you just said, this case, it may have been an emotional piece that came out of you that you needed to say something and you said it and it's succinct and it's in the song and I like it. So I'm not touching it.
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay. We've got about 4 minutes. And, something I wanted to ask was that for when Bleachbear was starting and then having success and you had a lot of local coverage and I went to some of your shows and there's quite a following for you guys, did you ever encounter problems being an all-female band?
Yeah, I would say there's a lot of problems, but actually I noticed the problems more when I got older because I think part of the thing is when we were doing it, we were so young that I honestly didn't really like, there was things that I noticed like just like with encountering people who didn't think that we knew what we were doing, which also could have been an age thing because we were quite young. Just like with sound engineers, like constantly feeling like you're being talked down to. I think a bigger problem though wasn't even that, because in general people are very supportive. Like, I mean, those are things that I think are kind of embedded, but I think it's just the community. It's hard to break into a community when there's not other people around you that if there's not a ton of other female bands around, it's harder to network. It's harder to find shows. I think community kind of forms with people who are similar to other, like people just naturally gravitate towards people that they find similar to them. So like with a lot of the bands that we grew up performing with, a lot of them were like all guy rock bands. And so we were always kind of odd people out because we were like these young girls playing with these like older guy bands. So it's not because they're actively trying to exclude you, of course. It's just that they're naturally going to vibe with the other guy bands. So it's more just that kind of community piece to it. And then those are the people that are going to want to ask to perform with them and come to their shows. And I found And I guess now that I'm older and I can reflect back on it, I can kind of understand kind of like what was going on at play there. But I guess now, there's a lot of female pop artists. I'd say I actually did my study in my like exit study I did for college looking at the Billboard Hot 100 demographics. And I was actually shocked to see how underrepresented women are across the board, even in genres like pop that people imagine like are like female dominated. But even more shocking than that, I found was how underrepresented Asian Americans are. And Asian Americans are so underrepresented in the, I was only looking at the US music industry. So for me, that's kind of my new personal mission. I think before with Bleachbear, I was like, I want to be a badass all-girl rock band because there's not a lot of those. And now I'm like, I want to be a badass Asian American pop artist because there's not a lot of those in the US. So
no, you're absolutely right about that. And it's funny because that's actually something that I had put down here, but we're also starting to run out of time. So you already spoke to the fact that now this is kind of a new charge because you notice a discrepancy and an area that's not represented very well, or not well at all, really. And so you can be one of hopefully many that lead that charge into the future. With the last minute that we have, where can people find you, connect with you, social media, websites? What do you have coming up in the next minute?
Yeah. So probably the best place to connect with me is my Instagram, which is Tigerlily_music. And then also my Twitter is music_Tigerlily. My Facebook page is just Tigerlily Music. And I actually have a website up now. So I guess the best thing they could do if they want to learn more is pre-save my new single that's coming out. It's coming out July 15th. And yeah, going to plan some kind of release concert on probably Instagram Live for July 15th as well.
Okay, well, Tigerlily, it was so great catching up with you and seeing what you're up to and hearing your new music. So I'm really looking forward to your solo work, and stay safe down in Oregon. Have fun, but stay safe down there, and definitely take care. Okay.
Yeah, thanks so much. It was great talking to you, catching up, and it's so funny. I can't believe it's been 5 years already.
All right, take care.
Come. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.